Oof. I don't know what he's going to do, man. I don't know. There's so much happening. And not in a good direction that, who knows how this man will continue undermining, this country, destroying this country. Donald Trump. Let's take a look at what Donald Trump is up to, because it turns out Trump had a phone call with NBC News, and he said he's angry. He's pissed off at Vladimir Putin. You hate to see besties fall out like this. Drama, the girls are fighting.
Sunday morning, President Trump is standing by his national security team as the fallout intensifies after top officials mistakenly shared attack plans for U.S. military strikes in Yemen on the Signal messaging app with a journalist. In an exclusive phone interview on Saturday, the president told me, quote, "I don't fire people because of fake news and because of witch hunts." Mr. Trump said he still has confidence in Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and National Security Advisor Mike Waltz. Just hours ago, President...
Someone said that's why you never see two pretty best friends. Yeah. You never see two hotties like this that are besties. Like, there's always going to be some friction. You know what I mean? They're going to be into the same guy. It's just going to cause some issues, right?
And Trump called me to tell me he is, quote, pissed off with Russia's President Putin and threatened to impose secondary tariffs on Russia's oil.
It's crazy how orange he looks next to Vladimir Putin. It's crazy.
Quote, "If Russia and I are unable to make a deal on stopping the bloodshed in Ukraine, and if I think it was Russia's fault, which it might not be, but if I think it was Russia's fault, I am going to put secondary tariffs on all oil coming out of Russia." Mr. Trump said 25% tariffs on Russian oil could happen any moment and told me he plans to speak with President Putin this week. The president told me, quote, "I was very angry, pissed off when Putin started getting into Zelensky's credibility and started talking about new leadership in Ukraine." On Iran, the president said he's also considering secondary tariffs if Iran doesn't agree to a nuclear deal. Quote, "If they don't make a deal, there will be bombing, and it will be bombing the likes of which they have never seen before." After markets tumbled on Friday and with consumer confidence falling, the president also told me he's not backing down on his tariff plans.
What we're going to be doing is a 25% tariff on all cars that are not made in the United States. If they're made in the United States, there's absolutely no tariff.
And the president telling me tariffs are, quote, absolutely permanent. And on fears of foreign automakers raising prices, quote, "I couldn't care less if they raise prices because people are going to start buying American-made cars." And on his vow to annex Greenland, the president saying, quote, "I never take military force off the table, but I think there's a good possibility."
I like that he called NBC News and said all of the bad things. He was like, "I'm going to go on a tear and I'm going to give you the worst possible answer for everything that you asked me. And maybe some extra stuff too." Fantastic. Every time this dude opens his mouth, I'm like, oh my God, here we go. What else? What should we be looking forward to in the upcoming months? You know, fantastic, amazing, wonderful. Calling up fake news media like this is interesting, though. I think it means that he's recognizing that his motion is on shaky ground. You know, he's losing his motion a little bit because before he was riding high. Okay, there was no calls to NBC News whatsoever. It was all Fox News. He was going up, talking to brown nosers like Sean Hannity, and I think he recognizes that his approval ratings are kind of falling apart, especially because the economy is not doing so hot right now. And that's seemingly the only thing that selfish, entitled, self-centered Americans who can't see anything but like what's right in front of them care about. And it's a big thing to care about, for the record, of course. Make no mistake. But it's wild that like he's that up, the thing that he like won the election over, while simultaneously also eroding constitutional protections that are in. Hassan is so negative, man. What an L way to live. Trump is king, baby. I like the overall vibes from people who are just like, yeah, I really just want you to say nice things about Trump. Like, I want you to just like have fun with it, you know? Okay, dude. They're black bagging people out the streets. You know what I mean? It's pretty up. What do you want me to do? Lie? Yeah. Based. Okay, there you go. Yeah, he's the king. Nice about anything, man. Yeah. Yeah, based. This is the reason why he's threatening to bomb Iran now. They rejected his little letter. Oh, yeah. Great. Breaking. Iran's president has rejected direct negotiations with the U.S. in response to Trump's letter. Great. Fantastic.
That we could do it without military force. The White House is still on defense this weekend after the Atlantic editor-in-chief Jeffrey Goldberg says he was added to that signal conversation by Mr.
Like, Trump called in NBC News and was like, I'm going to bomb a foreign nation with a standing military, missile systems, one that could cripple the global economy in retaliation. And you're over here being like, why don't you say something nice about that? Well, I don't know. I don't think it's hard. It's hard to say something nice about it, you know? He's like, I'm going to militarily invade Greenland. Okay, how do I find something nice about that? How am I supposed to look at that and go, yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, sir. Yeah, we should invade more countries. That's what I wanted. I wanted more invasions, not less, of course. That's why I voted for the Peaceful Dove, by the way. Remember? Everybody was like, oh yeah, Mr. Peaceful Dove. That's what he does. He does peace deals. He's art of the deal, art of the steal, baby. You know, he's such a good deal maker that he spent the first 2 months undermining our proxy in the Ukraine situation while simultaneously glazing Vladimir Putin. And now Vladimir Putin predictably is not even playing ball with him. So now he's upset at him. What happened to that deal? He said day one, he was going to fix it. He said, no more forever wars. Day one, I'm coming and I'm fixing Ukraine. Ukraine would have never happened under my watch. Okay. So what happened? It's no longer day two. We're entering the third month of the admin. What the hell?
Trump's national security advisor, Mike Waltz, where details of the plans for an attack on the Houthis in Yemen were shared with him in real time. The chat included the vice president, the defense secretary, the secretary of state, the CIA director, and the director of national intelligence. The explanations for what happened and how serious of a security breach it was have been evolving.
I'm sure everybody out there has had a contact where it was said one person and then a different phone number.
But you've never talked to him before, so how's the number on your phone? I mean, I'm not an expert in any of this, but it's just curious. How's the number on your phone?
Well, if you have somebody else's contact and then then somehow it gets
someone
sucked
sent
in,
you that
it gets
contact.
sucked in.
Nobody was texting.
It gets sucked in. That's just how it gets sucked in. Don't you hate it when it gets sucked in, dude? Hassan, you're such a hater. Why don't you understand? It gets sucked in. You know, hey, this guy, let me say something positive about him. He likes the party. That's cool. I like that the Defense Department is led by a guy who likes the party. I actually don't care about incompetence at this level, for the record. I do care about like the hatred that these people have in their hearts, but I don't really mind if the Defense Department is just weak. I don't mind that they're incompetent when they're making these sorts of decisions on Signal group chats or whatever. I do mind that our coverage over their ridiculous actions, like consistently bombing Yemen, for example, are not about why we're bombing Yemen at all, or bombing Yemen without congressional approval, or killing a bunch of civilians in the process and admitting it in Signal group chats. But instead, it's all about like, why are they doing this in Signal group chats? They should have better operational security. It's like, no, I don't really care. It's fine if they don't have good OPSEC. I'm happy with that, actually. Oh no, will it thwart America's evil plans? Oops, I guess.
War plans, and that's all I have to say about that.
Intelligence officials defended the sensitive nature of the content, denying it was classified.
My communications, to be clear, in a Signal message group were entirely permissible and lawful and did not include classified information.
There was no classified material that was shared.
Was there any mention of a target in Yemen?
I don't remember mention of specific targets.
Was there any mention, Ms. Gabbard, of a weapon or weapons system?
I don't recall specific weapons systems being named.
How about anything about timing?
I don't recall specific timing.
Any mention of any military unit whatsoever? Mr. Ratcliffe?
Not that I recall.
Ms. Gabbard?
Not that I recall.
After
They know we can see the text messages, right? It's interesting.
the administration insisted there was no classified information on the text chain, Goldberg released the messages that included Defense Secretary Hegseth sharing specific details about when bombs would drop and when U.S. jets would take.
This was the day before they released text messages. No, I know, but they knew what the text messages were. They knew what the text messages were. Yeah. They I guess functionally declassified it by saying, "Oh, there's nothing in there that's serious. It's fine." And then Jeffrey turned around and was like, "Yeah, here it is then." You got a guy who is a State Department stooge to literally release these messages because you said, you know, it's clean, it's fine.
Off just 30 minutes before they launched the attack. National Security Advisor Mike Waltz texted that a key target of the attack had been seen walking into his girlfriend's building that had collapsed. President Trump is privately angry with Waltz, two Republican sources tell NBC News. The Senate Armed Services Committee has requested a formal investigation from the Pentagon's Inspector General, but the FBI and the DOJ seem unlikely to investigate the matter, even as pressure mounts for more accountability.
There was a crime here, and there should be accountability.
Just click the damn video, bro. It's so funny. You were so close.
I was searching around the internet.
Okay, dude. Okay, boomer.
White House lies. It's hypocritical. It's corrupt. So no, I don't trust the Fox to investigate the hen house.
I'm also puzzled by some of the answers that were given by the DNI at the intelligence hearing.
I think everybody has acknowledged, including the White House, that, mistakes were made. And what we want to do is make sure that something like that doesn't happen again.
And voter anger is growing over the issue, on display at this town hall in Indiana.
Will you demand the immediate resignation of Pete Hegseth? No, I will not demand their resignation.
Trump tells NBC, "No, I'm not joking. I'm not joking about seeking a third term." When asked whether he wanted another term, Trump responded, "I like working. I'm not joking," Trump said, when asked to clarify, "But I'm not. It is far too early to think about it. There are methods which you could do it." Remember when another I told you so moment, okay? A lot of other people also said that this was most likely going to happen, but I'm telling you, dude, I 100p, dude. I told you. He want JD Vance to run with Trump being VP and give up the presidency to Trump law. I think last minute fucks everything up so that he could say we're in the same moment FDR got to serve 3. Dude, what will the Democrats do now? What will the Democrats do now? And I don't like the counter from a lot of people that are like, well, Obama will get to do a third term then. It's like, okay, dude, sure. Yeah, that'll solve the problem for sure. Trump goes a third term, there's no more Obama. Trump goes a third term, there's no more elections. When his third term comes, there will be an election like Putin's Russia. I don't know. I don't know what kind of authoritarian version will exist at that point. I don't know. But it won't be even the theoretical liberal democracy that we've come to love and enjoy. Let me tell you. Martial law with Supreme Court, all the cards are stacked in his favor. Who knows? Also, in the process, Democrats carrying water for this admin will become so weak that I don't believe. I don't know what he's going to do, man. I don't know. There's so much happening. And not in a good direction that who knows how this man will continue undermining this country, destroying this country. The resistance. Only 34 Democrats sign letter on ICE making students disappear. Immigration officials are snatching international students off the street, and most Democrats don't seem to care. Oh my God. This is so funny. Americans are experiencing the things that oftentimes due to American interference, as a matter of fact, or Western interference, as a matter of fact, has like over other countries and like planted authoritarian regimes in other nations. And all you can do is just sit around and go, what am I going to do? I hope he one day, you know? Fantastic. I like that is the only thing that remains here in America as well. Like we've given up. We've given up entirely on the Democrats doing anything in terms of resistance, like the courts, all the institutions are going to serve his interests. So that's the last option. When you're at that stage, the last option is like, okay, he's going to get us into a direct war somewhere, then declare that we can't hold elections because we're at war. And if anyone complains, he's going to say you're okay with Zelensky doing it while completely ignoring it's not Zelensky's choice to be at war. Have you read about the Swedish journalist that got detained in Turkey, got arrested on terrorism charges? No, I hadn't seen it, but that's not surprising to me at all. Bro, you guys are so crazy. Trump almost got assassinated and he survived, dude. He's got the heavens mandate, okay? The golden hand. Kamala and Biden more than doubled the amount of people abducted by ICE after taking over from Trump. Liberals just stopped caring for 4 years. Welcome back. Yeah, there is... I don't even want to get into this, but... What do you think of Ezra Klein's new abundance book? What do you think of him in general? Is he a Zio Lamau? Ezra Klein is definitely more critical of Israel than the average liberal Zionist is. But that has nothing to do with the abundance stuff anyway. The abundance stuff is just like repackaged. It seems like it's like repackaged neoliberalism, but I haven't read the book, so I can't. I mean, he talked to Ta-Nehisi Coates. He has a major platform, and he offered like a non-contentious and pretty positive interview to Ta-Nehisi Coates. So I think that he's not. I think he's wrong, but maybe not intellectually dishonest, if that makes sense. Like, I think his worldview is incorrect. He's just a liberal, man. That's it. He's a liberal who is, I guess, more open-minded than the average liberal. Yeah, I listened to Matt Brunig talk about the book. He read it on Chapo. And it just seems exactly what I thought it was. But then again, like I said, I didn't read it. I can only speak on the way that people are talking about it, the way that they have presented the book, and the way that people are defending the book, and the ways in which people have criticized the book, those who have read it. And the problems are obvious, and I think that they recognize it as well. Except their solutions are more deregulation, it seems, and I don't know.
Into the U.S.
Anyway, let's watch. Americans want focus on prices, not tariffs.
These and other tariffs are in addition to those already imposed on some of our closest allies, like Canada and Mexico. Of course, there are tariffs on China as well. Our new CBS News poll reflects some of that underlying economic anxiety. So we bring in our Executive Director of Elections and Surveys, Anthony Salvanto. Anthony, I'm going to be very scientific here. On the economy, what gives?
Well, we know, good morning, Major. We know that people still say the economy is bad. We know that prices and inflation are the top reason they give for why. So in this poll, we find that the president's approval for specifically handling the economy and inflation are both ticked down. Now, let's talk about these.
I'm tired of defending you in the comments of Lex Loser Boss, lol. What? What is Lex Loser Boss? Lex Loser, that TikTok guy? Who's Lex Loser, the TikTok guy? Bro, I have no idea what you're talking about.
Tariffs, because look, it's early in the administration, so I think the key gauge is what do people think he's trying to do? And here we see a mismatch. They think he's...
No, don't tell him. Don't tell that chatter to stop fighting these battles. It's good. Keep fighting those battles, brave soldier.
Putting too much focus on trying to put in tariffs and not enough focus on trying to lower prices. Now, the mismatch there is the administration argues, well, that'll have positive impact, right? So I asked, what do you think will happen when tariffs go into effect? People think in the short term that it'll raise prices, but also in the long term, there's a lot of people who think tariffs will raise prices. So the administration hasn't quite connected the dots on that argument yet. Now, what happens next is you get people think with uncertainty in the stock market that his policies are having a negative effect there. I should add this. He does not entirely own this economy yet. Speaking of it,
why did you skip that Kamala Biden deportation article? Is it true? Is it untrue? Or does it negate the need to demand answers from Trump's administration for deportations? No, I didn't skip it. It wasn't an article. It was first of all, it was one graph Secondly, it's not untrue. And the reason why I quote unquote skipped it is because I don't want to talk about deportations again. I've talked about it every single goddamn day. It's like breaking my brain. And it's also things that I've already brought up before in terms of, now you're getting me to talk about it again. Oh my God. Just let me live, dude. Let me live. Let me cover the stories that I want to cover. Okay. Please. Oh my God. Oh my God.
Being early, right? Asked who's to blame for inflation, right? And that he shares with Joe Biden still. But one of the things to watch going forward is expectations. Coming into the administration, before he took office, a lot of people thought that Trump's policies would make them financially better off. You ask that question today, and far fewer Americans think that. Even far fewer Republicans think that, and that expectations game is key.
In the data, there's still some buoyancy for the president. He's not collapsing by any stretch of the imagination. And it appears one of the reasons is satisfaction with aggressiveness on immigration.
Absolutely right. This is a story about balance. And the things that are going well in the public mind for him is his handling of immigration, which is still net positive.
Yeah. The Democrats not contesting the immigration stuff that he's doing, unironically, is part of the reason why people just don't care about the immigration. And I don't know if it's because they like what the Republicans are doing. I don't know if that's the case, or if it's because, and that could be the case, or it's because they're cowardly. But you know, they're too afraid to put up a fight. They're too afraid to have a position that people might react negatively to.
And his deportation program is still net positive and popular. People say, well, they don't think it'd be okay if there are legal residents who were mistakenly detained in this program, although there are some in his base who do. But you look at other aspects of this, like cuts to the federal workforce. That continues to be split. But you then also see a majority of people saying, well, that might impact programs that they care about. Even over a third of Republicans think that may happen.
My point is, if there's they just showed 58% approval for deportations. Yes. The reason why people have this attitude still, the reason why people have this attitude, which is the first time in American history, in perhaps the entire history of the United States of America, where Americans are on board with mass deportations. This is unique. And it happened because of the last 4 years before Donald Trump, where the Democrats allowed the Republicans to keep hammering that point over and over again without any sort of counter messaging whatsoever. And it got to such a degree where, like, this was over. It was always a button that the Republicans used to hit nonstop. But even under the first Trump administration, if you recall, a lot of the actions that Trump took were draconian, awful, but there was a ton of resistance against it. Chinese Exclusion Act, there were definitely times before. I have no idea what kind of approval ratings they had for the Chinese Exclusion Act back then. I'm not saying America's not done mass deportation programs before. I'm simply talking about people's opinions on mass deportations. Because, like, we had the Bracero program as well, and that was unironically not exactly a popular program. You had back then Texas ranchers gunning down people that were trying to grab Mexicans or people that they thought were Mexicans. So it's not necessarily something that was something that the public was positive about. I didn't say we've never had white nativist deportation protocols. Of course we have in our history. But yeah, I mean, in the aftermath of the Bracero program, when they were trying to round up and successfully rounded up and mass deported 1 million plus, I think almost like 2 million people of Mexican descent, even like American citizens too. Ranchers in Texas were so disapproving of the measure that they would gun down marshals that were trying to round up Bracero program workers. Like, that's the level of unpopularity it reached for Americans. Yes, Operation W Back is the name of the operation. I just don't say it because I don't want to get clipped and then have people yell at me for saying a slur, but that's what they called it. my point is, Democrats dropped the ball spectacularly from 2021 onward on this issue. They never did counter messaging on the immigration stuff. They never showed a positive way in which migrants, undocumented and documented alike, are actually positive to this nation's economy, to the United States of America in general. And and here we are. I would say that Americans are very malleable, and ultimately they're persuadable. They see what they see on television. They can make up their own minds, but usually you can lead them in the appropriate direction. And without Democratic leadership, the media is not going to do that on their own. And if the Democratic leadership is not interested in counter messaging against this and putting up a fight against this, as they have not, as even on this front, they have not done anything about it. If they capitulate and they cave, then yeah, the public is going to think, no, this is good. This is why we voted for Trump, and I'm glad it's happening. They're not going to be able to tie together why these mass deportations, which are not even, like, they're not even mass deportations because logistically it's impossible for them to do so. But the no due process deportations that are taking place already, which is supposed to like open up the precedent for mass deportations as it stands, if the Democrats are not going to push back against it, then people are gonna think, no, it's fine. And they're not going to realize why the economy is not getting fixed. The Republicans lied about tying mass deportations to the economy. The economy is not getting fixed. Deportations are happening. So if the Democrats don't actually recenter and refocus the message back to the economy and talk about how these kidnappings are completely unjustifiable and eroding what remains of the Constitution, then people are going to think, oh, I guess we just haven't deported enough Mexicans. What's happening right now is the same exact liberal capitulation that took place in Nazi Germany. That's it. It's identical. It's almost one-to-one. It's crazy how similar it is. It blows my mind.
Popular. People say, well, they don't think it'd be okay if there are legal residents who were mistakenly detained in this program, although there are some in his base who do. But you look at other aspects of this, like cuts to the federal workforce. That continues to be split. But you then also see a majority of people saying, well, that might impact programs that they care about. Even over a third of Republicans think that may happen. Again, a key measure to watch. And look, in terms of how this ties back then to that uncertainty in the economy, that could have an impact worth watching too.
One of the conversations certainly that has become more intense in the last couple of weeks here in Washington is the clash for the administration. Sometimes it looks intentionally with Congress on executive powers and with the courts on executive powers. Do we have any data that talks about where the country is?
Half of the stuff that the liberals are doing right now is reminiscent of just like full-blown capitulation, the Enabling Act. You know what I mean? It's just, there's got to be there's probably, has Bestie Marks made a video on this? I feel like I've watched something on this broadcast before that is reminiscent of how liberals are operating right now and enabling the Trump authoritarian regime to be as violent as it wants to.
About what looks like something that is really getting to be confrontational.
In terms of judicial review, like you mentioned, the majority of people say, yeah, judges should have the ability to review a president's actions, but there is some talk on the right as well, should they try to impeach judges who rule against the president? And while most people don't say so, there is a bulk of Republicans who would favor such efforts. And that's, again, part of this larger push, especially from his base on items like this. Look, other things, DEI, ending DEI programs, marginally popular, but not cutting off funding to organizations that still go ahead and practice it.
One of the interesting factors in all of these is where independents are. And independents are a little bit more troubled about the confrontation executive powers than Republicans.
They are. And again, this speaks to our current politics, which is, are you pushing for things that the base wants? One of the things about the Republican base right now is that they say that those immigration efforts are just important in their evaluations as the economy is, and that sets up one of the key differences.
Anthony Salvanto, always a pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks, Major.